All right. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to Live at Lloyd. It's your girl, Jackie, known as Jazz, and I'm sitting in for Lloyd for tonight. He will be back on Wednesday. I know you guys are making your way in. It's July and everybody's outside getting that sun, but we're going to have a great show today. So jump into the comments with questions and anything else of that sort. Before we start, I just want you to know our esteemed guest tonight is Lajoie Bradley. Okay, I know you're looking at the name like, is it LaJoy? No, it's Lajoie Bradley, and she will be joining us in a few. But let's get into today's forecast. So today is Monday, July 1st, 2024. The sun is in Cancer, the moon in Taurus. This is a 6 universal month, a 7 universal week, a 7 universal day. And because it is a 7 universal day, it is ruled by Cancer and Pisces. And so for those who are Cancers or Pisces or born on the 2nd, the 7th, the 11th, the 16th, the 20th, the 29th of the month, this is a favorable day for you. So capitalize on that energy. Tonight's show is sponsored by Ebony, the energy stylist. She was on last week, Wednesday, and we spoke about this course. So if you have not checked out this course yet, please check it out. It is the Crystal Chakra and Energy Intensive, a 9-week course that's going to take you through using the crystals, understanding your chakras, understanding sound frequencies, and the numerology and how that all plays together. Go to cosmicintentionsco.com, cosmicintentionsco.com as well. My book, Knocking from the Inside, is available on Audible now. I still haven't been able to figure out this promo code thing, but y'all can check it out on Audible. Y'all could buy it. It's not that expensive. So go to Audible and check out Knocking from the Inside. Shout out to my boy Jay for giving me such a lovely shout out on Instagram over the weekend. I was very honored. Our brother King Simon has a special 2-day weekend, October 12th and 13th, in honor of Dick Gregory. The tickets go on sale today. So this is the early bird special. So you can jump on that. We have the intellectualpower.net. Get your vitamins made from all natural organic herbs and materials. 10% off at intellectualpower.net. And we are also celebrating 50 years with Nicholas Brooklyn. Check out nicholasbrooklyn.com. They have been servicing our community for 50 years and providing such great programming for the community. And so without further ado, I am going to bring to the stage my guest, Lajoie. Welcome, Lajoie. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you, Jackie?
I am well. I'm well. I'm happy to have you on. And before we start, we met a few months ago. I want to say like in April, right? April or May. I can't even remember. The
Yeah.
time is flying. And I was a guest on your podcast, Transformation to Expansion. In fact, let me bring it up so folks can see. And so, Transformation to Expansion, your podcast here on Spotify. Tell us about Transformation to Expansion. What is it, and what led you to start a podcast talking about the transformation process? And what does the transformation process even look like for you?
Ooh, okay. So,
Love to hear.
so first of all, like I love podcasts. I love podcasts. I love to listen to them. I love to learn from them. But as a woman of color, I saw that there was kind of this, it's a very male dominated. I don't want to say it's male dominated, but I would say that the most popular podcasts, right, are pretty much male dominated.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's male dominated, a lot of the guests are males, right? And so I really wanted to kind of flip the script a little bit and really tap into the more holistic and esoteric aspect of podcasts, but really
Mm-hmm.
focus on women who are doing the work. And so that's how I kind of came up with this podcast. Started about 2 years ago, and I started by introducing my transformation story, and now I'm inviting guests onto the show to kind of share their transformation story and really empower my audience to just transform in the many different ways that you can transform, right?
Yeah.
Because we live in this world with like infinite options, and so when you start to think about transformation, there's not one way of doing it. There's actually
Mm-hmm.
infinite ways of doing it, right? Because everybody has their own way of doing it. It's not just uh, it's not, what is it, one size fits all, right?
Right.
Everybody has their own, method. Everybody has their own way that they're really here to transform themselves. And so I also use that in the work that I do. But this is kind of an extension of that. And I love my podcast so much. It's been such an honor to have, guests like you, Jackie, on my show. And just, it's been an honor to really just dive into, that whole holistic, esoteric realm, which I feel like I really embody and I've always embodied intuitively. But now through this podcast, it's an opportunity for me to really show that aspect and really empower myself to tap into that even more. And so, the first couple of episodes, I think on here, or not the first couple, but the past couple of episodes have been about, transforming out of trauma, healing trauma in many different ways. And in the future, we're going to tap into conscious parenting, holistic fertility health. That's a big one that there's not a lot of information out there about. So I really had to do that. So anyway, so there's a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about in this podcast. I'm really excited for the rest of the year, y'all. Like, the guests are incredible. And it is majority female. I do give some exceptions, right? So I always give exceptions to males who are tapped into their feminine energy, or who have that balance, right? And so Lloyd is actually one of the first, and I think currently only male guests for this year on the show. I'm not saying that, I'm keeping all of the guys out. I'm just saying that, if I do have a guy on the show, he needs to be tapped into the feminine aspect. It's really, really important. And so anyway, or his feminine aspect of himself. So, I love this show so much. It's so special to my heart. I love, again, all the guests, all the conversations we've had so far. It's just incredible. And I just know it's just going to go up from here. Like, I'm so proud of this podcast. Yeah.
You should be, because the conversations are so empowering, and the way that you tap into questioning it's gifted. And so if you haven't checked it out, family, check out Transformation to Expansion podcast. Now, you call yourself the Soul Expansion Coach. What is a soul expansion coach, and why do we need that right now?
Ooh, okay. So, okay, let's do the first. Well, okay, yeah, I'll do a brief answer to the first one. So, a soul expansion coach. So what I do is I allow you and empower you to find ways to expand your soul. And it's so important right now, because this is one of the biggest aspects that I think a lot of people are missing when they talk about the Aquarian age. So we know the Aquarian age, right? It's all about technology. Technology is going like this, right? But people are really missing a huge aspect of the Aquarian age, which is the soul evolution. And it's not just the soul evolution. It's really the human being, the evolution of the human being, right? We are intelligent by design. And so when we are living through this age, this Aquarian age, we have to remember that we are also evolving. We are also expanding ourselves. But in order to really expand ourselves on the physical, we really have to start expanding our soul. And so, when it comes to soul expansion, you have to work through different blockages, right? So we have like physical, mental, spiritual blocks, and we can get more into that later if y'all want. But we really need to go through those in order to have our souls expand. So a lot of people are kind of already doing this work through, going to therapy or healing trauma. That's kind of on a basic level. Right. But it's necessary, right? It's necessary to get to the place that you want to be at. And so when it comes to soul expansion work, I mean, another word for this is ascension. People hear about ascension masters a lot. Right. That's another way of saying it. I think it's a little bit too like ascension master, like, I don't know, like, I just
in the sky, like, what does that mean on the real world, like on the ground? How do we make this?
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. I like to be a little bit more grounded. I mean, not that that's not granted. It's okay. If that's what you want to call it, it's okay. But I'm very, I just like to be a little bit more grounded. That's it. That's just how I am. That's who I am. So soul expansion. So, I mean, that's what we're here to do. So, and then the other thing you have to realize too is whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. We are in, it's like technology, right? Even if you are against AI and against a lot of the tech evolutions that's happening right now, you're either going to get with it or get lost. Like, it's like, there's no like, oh, I'm not going to participate and it's going to be fine. It's like, unfortunately, no. Again, we live in the Aquarian age. There's no opting out. You got to just go with it. But I really want to encourage a lot of people to go with it, being, how do I put this? Go with it from a conscious perspective, right? Be aware of what's going on, understand what's going on, have connections to people who really are tapped in. You know, I have friends who are I don't know how to put this. They work in IT. That's how I'm gonna put it. And anyway, so they always tell me like, you know, watch out because, you know, IG, they're gonna take a lot of this data, or I guess Meta is really the. But anyway, my point is, be aware, be conscious about what's going on. Okay, like opting out isn't necessarily an option at this point, but be aware of what's going on and just try to be. How do I want to put this?
Like be open to the process, you mean, in terms of, because that's interesting that you say that, because you're saying whether or not you're ready is going to happen. And so, one, what does the process look like as far as soul expansion is concerned? And if I'm not one of those people who's sitting on the fence, like, girl, I don't know, Lajoie, like, I'm not ready for you to tap into those parts of me that I don't even want to reveal to myself. What does that look like if I'm fighting that expansion, but it's still happening around me?
Yeah, that's hilarious that you asked me that, because I feel like that's kind of what I've been through probably since the first like big awakening, which was back in 2017. I don't think it's the first one, but it was one of those, you know, it was one of those moments.
Yeah.
In 2017, everybody kind of woke up at that point. And it's so funny because I'm going to answer this from my perspective, from my story. So 2017, I woke up, I tapped into manifestation, astrology, I did tarot. And then I think about 2 years later, you know, I was reminded of the fears that other people have around these practices, but really, and I'll say they're not really practices. They're more, again, they're part of our human design. There's no, in my opinion, there's no separation between like the supernatural and human. Like it's always been there. It's always been in our DNA. So anyway, okay, I don't want to go on a tangent. So I can get back into that later because that's like another rabbit hole. But it's always been in our DNA. So anyway, at that moment, you know, I was reminded of the fears that other people had. You know, my father is very religious, and he's like, you know, oh my God, you know, and then my grandmother is Jehovah's Witness, but I think she's very aligned with kind of the truths of a lot of the teachings, which is love, right? To tap into love, to be forgiving, and just to love unconditionally, right? So even though I'm doing work that I guess in her religious practices seems taboo, she still loves me. She still supports me. She still, you know, talks to me, right? So it's like I said, she's really tapped into the truth of those teachings. So anyway, okay, right. So my father, right. So he was like, you know, this is the devil, this is evil. And so I got scared and I was like, I don't know if this is the right thing. I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I was like, I don't want to go to hell. You know, like it's like, like I literally was like in that. So I think I stopped for a little bit. But again, it's like when you are like supposed to be here to evolve your soul, which again is everybody, whether you like it or not. But when you're really here, you're still going to be guided in some way. Like it's like, and you're still going to be exposed to the work in some way. So one of the things that I did, what was this in 2020? Not even I did. I feel like God pushed me to do this. I started traveling the world. I started experiencing different religions, and I'm starting to find a lot of like different commonalities, or not, no, similar commonalities between all of the different religions, similar teachings. And on top of that, it seems like in the past, a lot of the religions were kind of on the surface level to the public. But and again, from what I've learned is that a lot of these religions, they have that esoteric metaphysical aspect of the teachings, but it's just not exposed because in the past we have been taught to fear so much. And so one of the times that I was kind of like reminded that you know, esoteric teachings, metaphysical teachings or practices was normal was I actually went to Thailand to study Buddhism. And one of the things that I think the head monk allowed me to see, because I think other people didn't like really pick up on this, but he was talking to a local. She was asking for questions, and he was sitting down and he was like listening to her question, and he was rolling dice. He was doing some of these like metaphysical practices, and I was like, whoa, I thought monks just meditated, you know, like I was like,
Yep.
I thought you just meditated, that was it. And then actually recently I just had another guest on the show. She was telling me how, like, a lot of these, like I said earlier, a lot of these practices are just hidden because, again, I think a lot of the monks knew that there's just so much fear. I won't say there is fear, but there has been a lot of teachings to fear these
Yep.
abilities that we naturally have. Like I said, it's in
Mhm.
our DNA. People, some of y'all may know this, some of y'all may not, but 99% of our DNA, sorry, is junk DNA, but I call it potential DNA. So really, it's just 99% of our DNA is potential. So like, you're either gonna get tapped in or you're not. You got to choose. But yeah, that's like one of the biggest things that kind of came to my awareness. And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, if this monk, not
Was
even just a
rolling
monk, a head
dice.
monk, right. If he's doing some of this, like, metaphysical stuff, I was like, maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture. And now I fully realize that, like, yeah, I wasn't seeing the whole picture. And now that I fully understand what has been going on the past thousands of years, and how there's just been a lot of teachings around the metaphysical aspect. And you know what? I don't know. I'm being called to say not even the past thousands of years. I think it's just the past couple hundred years, to be honest.
Years.
There's just so much misinformation that we're taught, especially in the American school system. But again, through my travels, I found this is true throughout the whole world. But yeah, it's just like there's a lot of just miseducation. And
Yeah, it's a lot of
yeah,
miseducation, and people are fishing for information. I think even more so now, people want to find out what's going on, but they don't know where to turn. And as you were mentioning, you travel the world to tap into all of these religions. Right now, you're in Bali.
yeah, right.
And so, how is your learnings in Bali going to contribute to your work that you do as a soul expansion coach?
Yeah, so I mean, I was here actually 2 years ago. Not even, and this island is crazy, but I was here 2 years ago accidentally. It wasn't even, I won't say accidentally, but it wasn't planned. I didn't intend to come to Bali, even though I think my mom, she watches YouTube a lot, so she was just like, "You need to go to Bali." She was telling me I need to go to Bali for like 2 years, but I was like, "No, like it's okay, like it's too," because there was a part of me that, and there's a part of Bali where it's kind of that, like, I don't want to say fake spirituality, but it's like kind of that surface level. Sorry, it's
Mm-hmm.
not fake. It's just on the
That
surface.
eat, pray, love kind of spirituality.
Right. So anyway, so I was just like, nah, I'm good. Because I had experienced a little bit of that in Tulum when I was there. And I was like, nah, I'm good with this. But anyway, so I accidentally just came to Bali, and my intention, I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll be here for 1 month, and then I'm going to go to Nepal because I wanted to kind of tap back into that like Buddhist meditation that I was kind of exploring at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry, I have to like stay focused because there's like a whole reason behind that. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, so then I went to Bali, stayed there for a month, and then it was just it was crazy. It was like Bali. It wanted me to stay here. That's the only way to put it. And for those of y'all who know, but for those of y'all who don't, it's like when you come to Bali, I mean, people come here to like have fun, but whether it doesn't matter what reason you come to Bali, like Bali has this ability, and I'm gonna explain why in a second. But
Okay.
Bali has this ability to really transform people's lives and really give you the medicine that you need and bring awareness to the wounds that you need to heal, whether or not you like it. So it's like whether you came here to just party or you came here to do spirit, doesn't matter. You're gonna get the situations. You're gonna get the how sometimes we're stuck in cycles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're going to or its body's going to bring awareness to those cycles, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not you like it. And so luckily, because I was here 2 years ago, I kind of know the cycles or I had experienced the cycles that I need to experience 2 years ago. And now I have the mindset to get out of those cycles, which is great. So I think otherwise it would have just been a repeat. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. So, and there's another reason for this. Actually, a lot of spiritual teachers and masters, they actually come here to Bali. Now they're outside of the tourist area. But a lot of them, they live closer to the two volcanoes. So, and this is more of my opinion or my intuition.
Right.
This isn't really, but it's really these two volcanoes here. They're powerful. It's like there's no, and it's really cool because they have this yin and yang energy to them. There's one feminine one and there's one masculine one. And a lot
Masculine. Ah.
it's really, yeah, it's really incredible. So, and this is just stuff that I have observed. Uh, just having lived here before for 4 months and then being here again, is these two volcanoes are like, this is the magic of really the island. And so a lot of the masters, they live closer to that energy. But anyway, so it has this like huge spiritual amplifier, yeah, basically, right? You know how like this amplifies like people's abilities, healing, anything, right?
Right.
I feel like that's what the two volcanoes do, and they have a very beautiful relationship too. um it's really magical. Like one time I was sitting on, there's some islands like 2 hours away from here, but if you go to the islands, you can actually see the two volcanoes
Mm,
obviously from a distance, right?
mhm.
There was one day there were all of these clouds in the sky, and the female volcano was like kind of absorbing the clouds, like the clouds are literally coming from the side of the male volcano, which is
Okay.
that's the name of the volcano. But anyway, but it would pass it and go to the female volcano, and so like the female one, which is Bator, which I think a lot of people know of because it's more popular. There's a lot of tours that go there and stuff like that. But anyway, she was just absorbing it, so the male one could kind of like show itself a little bit more. And anyway, so it's a very beautiful relationship. I'm gonna be real though. I think a lot of people who go to Bali, they don't know this.
Right.
Like this is
Busy in a
very,
turn.
hmm?
They're so busy in a turn up, they don't even notice what's going on with the natural.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, and this is like I said, like one of my like I guess superpowers is my power to just observe. And so yeah, so whenever I travel, I'm very observant, very, very observant. And like I said, I'll pick up on stuff that other people are like, what did you when was this? you know? But this is just how I am, yeah.
What's the name of the female volcano again? The tour, you said?
Bator, I think it was Bator. Like,
How do you
I'm
spell
pretty sure. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, if you want to look up a picture of it,
that? Yeah.
girl, actually, I could have sent you a picture because I have a picture of both of them. But anyway,
I'll
yeah, it's very powerful, and it's just like it's so beautiful. Like even like 2 days ago, I went to, there's like a ridge you can go to where there's a bunch of cafes, and I just went to the ridge to just observe to observe Bator, and like the energy is just so great. Like it's massive, it's really beautiful. So yeah, so really, I think a lot of that spiritual energy that Bali has is because of these two volcanoes.
that is fire. So
Yeah.
now you were talking earlier about the blockages, and many people now have a lot of blockages in terms of whether it be physical, mental, spiritual. How does the soul expansion work get to the root of identifying, as you were talking about in Bali, that shadow work that needs to reveal itself in order to heal those blockages and open them up?
Yeah, so and I want to say too, if any of y'all in the chat, I don't think I can see the chat, but if any of y'all in the chat have any blockages and would like to ask me any questions about that, please like feel free to. I would love to answer it at the end. But anyway, so blockages, right? So okay, because it's a really big topic.
It is. There's a lot to really bite off. So we can go down several different rabbit holes and be here all night, but we going a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah. And actually, yeah, if you go on my YouTube channel, I have a whole video. It's like an hour long. That's why I'm saying it's a lot. But the simplest, I think the most common blockage. Yeah, we'll talk about that. So the most common blockage that I've seen is programming. Is mental programming. This is the big one. If you can undo, or like not even undo, release this block, your powers are unleashed. It's you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable at that point. But you have to work through that. So that programming, right? And when I say programming, it's in the TV, it's in the music. Music's a big one. We ain't gonna get into it, but the music is a big
Now with
one.
all this debauchery going on here.
Girl, it's
crazy.
no, it's I feel like we gonna talk about
Oh,
this.
stop. Yeah, girl.
But okay, so on a basic level, right? It's just the programming, right? And not just like people talk about, like, it's not just what you observe, but it's what you think. This is the big one too for a lot of y'all who are on your soul journey, who are really being called to be pulled inward. You know, when you start that journey, you're not going to really talk to people as much, but you really have to watch your thoughts. Okay, so that's really for the people who are on that journey, because when you start to kind of go into isolation to really reflect and go inward, you're left with your thoughts, right? That's where meditation comes in. I know Lloyd is a big advocate for meditation. I am too. And again, key is consistency. It's not the amount, it's just doing 5 minutes minimum, like a day. I would say try to do 5 minutes. Actually, not in that. If you need to start with 1 minute, start with 1 minute. And I'm gonna be honest, that was me 5 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's the
Just
truth
trying
though.
not to engage with the thought takes time for you to realize that you got to let the thought just pass through, because before you're judging yourself like, damn, I'm thinking, but you're supposed to think. And so it's just a key of not engaging with it. So yeah, a minute is a good start. No
Right.
judgment.
Right, exactly. Um, and oh shoot, so what was I doing with this? Right. So meditation, clear your mind. So programming.
Program. Mhm.
Right. So oof, I think I lost my train of thought. Let me see.
That's cool. We're gonna come back
Okay.
to it. So now, when you were saying in developing powers, psychic powers, there is this thing people often say that everybody is psychic. It's just that we all haven't tapped into that ability. So how does your work allow people to tap into that ability?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I really empower y'all to recognize that you are already psychic. You are already psychic. I think it's pretty common at this point. Everybody has experienced telekinesis in some, right, in some capacity, whether it was with a family member or whether it was with a significant other.
Hmm.
I think everybody has experienced this, right? So really, I think the basic thing is just recognizing that you already have these abilities. It's just that every ability has a spectrum to it, right? There's different ways it can be expressed. So we'll do telekinesis. That's pretty common. So I guess I don't even want to say on a basic level, right? One of the expressions of telekinesis is, you think the same thing, or maybe you're cooking in the kitchen and you're like, oh my God, I need the salt. And then your family member or your significant other passes you the salt without even you asking, right? So that's kind of like one aspect of it. And then, but there's like, yeah, so then there's another aspect to this, which is more, I call it like the DM telekinesis. So, because like with the DM, you can't control if somebody like sends you the message, you just kind of receive it. Does that make sense, right?
It does. I do it all the time. I send people messages and they're like, "Oh, I was just going to ask you for that." Yep, I'm tapped in.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so one of the experiences I had with this, which was crazy, but this was back when I was in Thailand studying meditation. There were some monks visiting, I think from Mongolia,
Hmm.
and anyway, so I wanted to talk to them because I didn't know. Well, actually, sorry, I just like ruined the whole thing, but I didn't know where they were from at the time, right? So I went up to one and I was like, "Hi, like my name's Lajoie. Like, where are you from?" And before the monk even opened his mouth, the word Mongolia came into my head, and then like half a second later, he says Mongolia, and I was like,
Hmm.
"What the heck?" Like this, I've never. So that was something I had never experienced before, but that's another form of telekinesis where it's just like you kind of there's a sender and then there's a receiver. And again, his English was very minimal too.
Okay.
So that was another thing that was super significant. But like I said, like people have already experienced this on a really basic level. There's another one, what is it called? Clairgustance. And people know about clairvoyance, right? So there's the different clairs.
Yes.
Clair just means clear,
Right.
right? So again, going back to meditation, we're clearing our mind, clearing our bodies, so that it's empty, so we can really start to perceive the truth of the world, right?
Hmm.
So with clairgustance, a lot of chefs have this. They have the ability to just, they don't even have to taste the soup. They just kind of smell it a little bit and they're like, okay, they know what to add. They know exactly what to add. They don't have to taste anything, right? And then you have other people who, if they taste something, they can tell you every single seasoning that's in that stew or whatever without even asking the person who cooked it, right?
Yep.
So again, like we already have access to these abilities. Like it's in our DNA, it's in our human design. Like it is literally like the human body is just so intelligent. And remember that like the universe really comes from us, right? It's an extension of us. And that's the key that I think a lot of people don't recognize is that you have to really truly know that the world is you, that
Yeah.
this laptop that I'm filming on is just me, right? Because once you start to really know that and experience that, okay, then you get to go. Then the powers, the abilities that you see on TV and in the movies, you got it. That's it. It's a wrap. You get to go. But what a lot of people have the trouble with is that they still see that separation,
Yes.
right? And so yeah, so it's just really important to recognize that I mean, that's like I said, that's another block too, is that people don't recognize that you're one with everything. Like it's like um yeah, I don't know how to say
That's
that.
powerful because we live in a world with so many distractions. How does one get to the point where they can get to be clear, as you said? Because we have the
Yeah, so
phone, we got the computer, we got our mates, we have our family, we have all kind of things pulling our attention in so many different ways. And many of us don't have the luxury or sometimes not even the means to say, you know what, I'm going to go and travel somewhere where I can just collect my thoughts and my mind and just be in nature and just meditate and cool out. So how does one deal or actually ascend, as we were speaking earlier, with all those distractions around?
yeah. So obviously, first thing, meditate consistently. I'm not like, I mean, really look at the core of it. If you can just reprogram your mind, you don't
Mhm.
have to do any other work. But a lot of people, they have trouble doing that. So that's where the kind of work comes in. But I know people that they don't have to meditate. They don't meditate. They don't change their diet, but they're able to tap into those abilities. But that's because their mind programming is on point. But a lot of
Right.
people, is kind of a challenge to get there. So anyway, so obviously the first thing is turn it off. Okay. Turn off your phone, turn off your laptop, turn off your TV. If you need to, unplug it. And I know there's gonna be a lot of parents being like, "Oh my God, you know, when my kid gets in trouble, whatever, you know." But it's like, look, 20 years ago, we didn't have cell phones like this, and we were fine. So like, you know, like, so it's just like, but you have to kind of tap back into that confidence, tap back into that knowing. 'Cause I know a lot of people, they have like anxiety. One of my professors in college, he had a really pointed like statement, which was phones breed anxiety, and they do. Like there's,
Ah,
yeah, isn't that crazy? Like I was just like, whoa, it's like it's so true. So if you just turn off your phone, the easiest thing to do is turn off your phone when you sleep. Okay, so figure out the alarm situation. If you need to get a different alarm, just figure it out. But you need to turn off your phone when you sleep at a minimum. That's the
mhm.
minimum. The other thing you can do, what is it? Yeah, if you're dealing with like blue light situation, the blue light situation, that's what I'm gonna call it. You can actually change the color of your screen to like a yellow, so that helps with that.
Mhm.
Um, and okay, let me see, and then obviously, I think everybody has some connection to nature too, right? So what are the minimum? Like one of the things that I've always loved to do is I'll just go for a walk whenever I feel like depressed, or this is like kind of in the past now, but whenever I felt depressed or I had anxiety or I needed to like process something, I would take my ass. Oh, sorry. I'll take my myself
That's a,
for
that's a safe.
but
That's a
I'll
safe.
take for a walk. Yeah, okay. But yeah, um so I would take
Yeah.
my for a
Take
walk
yourself
into
for
nature,
a walk.
right?
Hmm. I agree with you. I go out to the park all the time and ground, put my feet in that soil and just get focused. But I was able because folks are like, oh, I Googled the volcano. This is the volcano here, the tour in Bali. So when you guys are out traveling, be sure to tap into this energy. Now, it's interesting too, as we speak about the soul expansion and harnessing these psychic abilities, a lot of the men are coming online in terms of tapping into their spirituality. And I know that their process is different in terms of the way that they receive downloads. How does your work support the men in this process?
Yeah, so a lot of men, I've seen this a lot too. They have these abilities, but they prioritize logic
Hmm.
over over that more feminine intuition aspect that they have in themselves, right? Because we are all a mix of the feminine and masculine, right? We have to have, oh no, we don't have to have, but no, but we have to have a sperm and an egg to be created, right? So it's just like you know, you can't have both in you and then decide to just focus on one, right, rather than the other one. But anyway, so logic is the biggest block for a lot of men at the end of the day. And so one of the big great examples of this is, in the Matrix, there's a scene where Neo, he meets this like kid monk, and the monk is like, he's like bending the spoon or whatever, and Neo's like, how'd you do that? And he the kid's like, because there's no spoon, like, it's an extension of him, like I was saying earlier. But this is a big lesson because for Neo in the movie, he had to let go of logic to really truly understand the Matrix and how it works. And so that's what a lot of men have to do. You have to kind of let go of the logic, tap into your intuition. And I will say this: once you find your true like life partner, your soulmate, this is gonna help a lot of y'all like a lot with this. It's going to really help you with this because your soulmate is really going to empower you to tap back into that feminine energy.
Right.
Like exponentially, really very easily too. And that's another big thing that well, we won't get into, but one of the things that I also work on is like attracting your soulmate, because it just brings a process of acceleration or it brings an aspect of acceleration to all of this. So, when you meet your life partner, your soulmate, it's going to really help you do that. But you have to do the work to get there. So we won't get into that right now.
Now, it's crazy to say that. I hope you don't lose your train of thought, but I got to tap into that soulmate before you move on to the next idea. Soulmates, we walk around saying that, oh, I need to find my soulmate, I'll be complete, right? And I think that many of us have a rose-colored glasses viewpoint of soulmates. And soulmates, as I've written in my first book, Knocking from the Inside, come to teach us lessons. And these lessons bend us and shape us and take us to the precipice of, as you say, the shadow work. And you're either going to jump off the cliff or you're going to stay on and understand how to deal with those shadows. How do you then work with finding a soulmate, knowing that it's not always going to be beautiful? It's not always going to be peaches and cream. Like, soulmate is hard work. What's your viewpoint about
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, so we don't want to start with this. So, first of all, there's an astrologer. What is his name? KRS. I forgot. I think that's all I know. But I think some of y'all might know him. I think he's Indian. But anyway, he talks about this. He talks about how, through every relationship, you have to go through the 12 signs, which takes about 12 years. So it's like you don't even know if that's really your soulmate until you've gone through that whole 12-year cycle. And then maybe you can kind of figure that out. But a lot of people, they can actually stop earlier within one, so they don't even get through the whole 12 cycles. They just like, oh, 2 years, we had this incident happen where we didn't get along, and so we broke up, or values didn't align. That's a big one. I think that's the number one way that the number one reason a lot of people break up is because their values are not aligned or they don't talk about it before. Anyway, we won't get into it again. If you want to know more, it's on my channel because it's a lot. But what you were saying earlier, this is where the transformation process before you meet your soulmate comes into play, because you really have to understand who you are. You have to understand who you are as a human being. You have to not even understand. You have to understand all of those things, and then you have to be willing to be flexible, be willing to change. That's a big one too. People, they meet their soulmates and they don't realize that, being human, we change, we go through changes. It's part of being the human, it's part of the human experience. And so when you're in a relationship and you expect it to never change, it's impossible. Like, I'm sorry, but it's impossible, right? We are made in the eyes of the creator, right? What is creator? It's creation, create. It's constant change, right? That's who we are. That's really like, that's who we are. So I'm sorry, but it's impossible to just be the same person throughout your whole life, even on a physical level, on a like logical level, right? I think our cells, they regenerate. I think it's every like 7 weeks or something like that. And so it's like, it's impossible. It's impossible. But again, it's because of this programming, right, that we start to think this and believe this. But I think that's one of those natural occurrences that just doesn't really work out, unfortunately. But you really need to do that inward work. You have to be willing to not willing, but it really helps. That's how I'll put this. because I know couples who they didn't do the work before, and then they're doing the work during the relationship, and it's kind of shaky, but it still works out, right?
Right.
So that's okay. If that's you, that's okay. But it really helps if you do the work beforehand, because then you're like, okay, I know the tools to get rid of my limiting beliefs. I know the tools to really see the situation for what it is and not just from my ego, right? So that's where like doing that work really helps beforehand, before you meet your soulmate, so that when obstacles come up, y'all can really work together to overcome those obstacles. And when you overcome those obstacles, y'all will both elevate and expand your soul. Like it's really, I think what we're taught about soulmates is it's there. A lot of it is lies. Like it's really it's a little sad, like to be honest, because we've just got so many things twisted. Like, but again, it's not our fault, right? It's a lot of it is in the programming and what we observe, and not being aware of how it's impacting us. So,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, don't beat yourself up about it. Give yourself grace. But really doing that work beforehand, knowing who you are, knowing your purpose. Knowing your purpose is the easiest way to really get to knowing who you are. And yeah, and it's and like I said, it's the easiest way, and it's the easiest way to release trauma. I'm telling you right now, like this is something, even through my podcast, having all of these guests on my show, this is the common factor. Once you tap into your passion, once you know who you are, what you're here to do, I don't want to say it's like coasting the whole way, right? But it becomes easier to overcome those obstacles. It becomes easier to find your soulmate.
Yep.
No, I don't want to say find your soulmate, attract your soulmate. It becomes easier to attract abundance if that's really what you want. And it's just it's really beautiful. Like the whole like union between two people, it's a really beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful thing that can really expand you. But it's really important. It's really important to kind of do some of that work before, so
Right.
you know how to navigate some of the obstacles that are going to come up. And especially if you think about having kids,
Mm.
I haven't had kids yet, but I know, it's funny too, because I always say like, "Oh, my kids are gonna be angels," but I just know that's not gonna be the reality, right? Like I was just like, "Look, okay," but that might be a challenge for you guys. So it's gonna be really important to work through those things, and to kind of how do I put this? Know how to kind of tap into who you are, know how to overcome your own obstacles, so that when you are together, it's a little bit easier instead of
Yeah.
more difficult, right?
So y'all hear that, people? The relationship cycle is 12 years. So when you get with your mate, these are
Yeah.
not conversations that you need to have with outside entities, because they don't know the ins and outs of this 12-year cycle. And speaking to people outside of us, they'll be like, oh, after 2 years, if he's not performing or she's not performing, y'all just need to split ways. Y'all need to do this. Y'all need to do that. We need to work it out. So 12 years, if you want to really put in the work, 12-year cycles. So now back to the conversation about men. And so we said that logic is a blockage. With them
Yeah.
finding their soulmate, they may progress faster. What else could they do to get on this journey?
Hmm. Oof. I mean, meditation. So actually, this is the thing that came up, was like, stop thinking, stop thinking. So
Mm,
a lot, and they'll come across like metaphysical stuff, spiritual things, and then they'll judge it, right?
yeah.
Which is a thought. So that's why I'm saying meditation is going to help with that, because it's going to empower you to just think less.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I think just really tapping into the feminine aspects of yourself. And again, feminine, it doesn't have to be uh, girly, I guess is the word that's coming to me. It doesn't have to be that.
Right.
It's creation, right? Women, we birth children, we create children. I mean, men help a little bit, but like we do most of the work. Okay, we do most of the work. I'll say 99% of the work.
Right.
So you want to tap into creation, draw, just create. A lot of producers too, they kind of tapped into this. But again, you want to create just from a space of non-thinking, right? So if you are a producer, just kind of, how would I put this? Just, just make the music. Don't think about what it needs, what it doesn't need. Oh, I didn't put the kick, I didn't put the snare, whatever. Just create. like just tap into creation. Like this is kind of the key. I think that's what's going to help with men. So the more you tap into creation, and creating from source, right? Creating from a space where you're not thinking, you're just creating, right? Sometimes what I would do is I will just like doodle or even just like, you know how like when you're a little kid, you know how to draw, you just scribbled. That's what I would do. You know, just tapping back into the, what is it called? The beginner's mind. That's what a lot of meditators call it. The beginner's mind, just tapping back into that is really going to help a lot of men. I'm trying to think, but I think that's basically it. I mean, obviously, yeah. And again, creation, right? So it doesn't have to be with drawing. It can be painting. It can be cooking too. I know a lot of y'all watching. Y'all don't know how to cook. Look, y'all need to learn.
A lot of men. That's powerful. So y'all got it, man. Tap into your creative abilities. Get that going on. Find your purpose. And I'm glad that you said that, because with the purpose and the passion, that's the work that we do. And as far as like numerology and cardology, we really spend a lot of time looking at the numbers to find the purpose, because your purpose is in your name. So once you understand the name, you understand what your purpose is. You understand what your passion is. That's why I'm always like, call me by my name. You text me, use my name. You calling me on the street, use my name. Just don't scream out my government on the street. I don't like that. Right. This is New York. Don't do that. But right, call the name as much as you can, because you're activating the purpose and putting that into the universe. And the more that we say the name is the more that we are realizing our purpose. So tap into the resources that you have. Now, you spoke about the harnessing of the powers. I'm in this space and I'm hoping, because I know back in 2021 when they had that Saturn, Jupiter, and Sun conjunction, everybody was like, oh, I'm about to get my superpowers. I'm about to be flying off buildings. You remember everybody was talking about the superpowers. And so your work kind of brings me to that space. Like now that we are in the Aquarian age, I strongly believe, since you did mention the Matrix analogy, that we may get to that space, like realistically, through the soul expansion work that you do. What do you think?
Oh, of course, yes. Like without a doubt, like without a doubt. It's just, I think it's the biggest thing that I think people need to understand is that there's been a lot of lies taught about superpowers. Okay. One of the things that I'm going to teach in my school, I think in September, is like, there's no such thing as flying, you're levitating. And you need to know that difference, right? There's a difference. Because I don't want to put this, I don't know if I want to say this, but I know of people, that's how we're gonna put it. I know of people who can levitate, okay, who actually have those abilities. Now, are they out in New York? Like, no, right? They're not out in the street, like flying over. No. They hidden, right? Because again, we've been programmed to fear. So this is like so important. We really need to really tap into that love. I know people are like, I don't know, there's kind of this thing about, not thing, but there's this thing going on. People are like, oh, love and light isn't like the truth or whatever. And it isn't the truth, right? We live in a duality. We live in a duality universe. That's why this realm was created. But what was I gonna say? But we need to recognize that, you know. Actually, no, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
It's okay. As far as like harnessing our superpowers, so if we're gonna be levitating soon, y'all, we're gonna be tapping into those bending spoon and levitation abilities. But now that I'm in that space, how do I protect myself? Because even on my level, in terms of being a medium and able to channel people and read people, spirits and entities want to attract themselves and attach themselves. And some of these entities are not always of the light. And so how does one protect themselves in this space as they are developing their psychic abilities?
Oh, okay. I realized what I was going to say. Okay, so, and I'll answer in a second. Right. So we live in duality, right? So there's like love and hate, or love and fear, right? In order for us to tap into those abilities, we have to tap more into love, because fear is the thing that has been blocking us from accessing those abilities, right? So that's the whole thing. That's the whole love and light thing. I know that obviously, yes, we have both as part of the world that we live in, but if you want to access those abilities, you have to let go of the fear. You have to tap into love. That's how it is. Okay, so let's get, sorry, because I was really important. So protection. I'm gonna give y'all the simplest method of protection. Okay, and this is like, I want to say it's foolproof, but from my experience.
Okay.
So one of the things that you can do to protect your space, obviously, and because again, this is like a huge lecture. I've talked about this on my YouTube channel, but it's an hour long. So again, there's a lot of different ways. Obviously, you have to learn how to protect the body, the mind. The physical, the mental, and the spiritual, right? But one way to do this is actually, and sorry, I'm looking to the side because I did this before the session. But you can use crystals. You just need 4 crystals, and you place them in each direction, and you honor each direction. You honor the north, the south, the east, the west, and you ask for protection. When you create that barrier, nothing can come in. A lot of people, a lot of shamans who do ayahuasca ceremonies, they do this a lot. And they even tell you when you do the ceremony, they say, hey, if you leave this space, I can't protect you. So make sure to stay, right? This, yeah. So that's the most basic way to do that. And you don't even need crystals. You can use a rock. Plants too. Plants are amazing protectors. People like really, I don't know, like we really disconnected
on the power of plants, right?
Yeah, like it's really incredible. And so what I'll do if I have both is I would use both. I would use a plant and a crystal. And so whenever you're doing some kind of psychic work, spiritual work, I really, 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 really encourage y'all to do this, because I've met people who have tried to channel, or I guess they did channel, but they channeled entities that weren't really, what they were trying to channel. And in that situation, I always tell them, like, did you create a barrier? And they're like, no, we used some sage. And I was like, well,
not enough. What are the crystals though? What are the crystals that we use to create the barrier? I know amethyst would probably be one, as far as like Saint Germain's violet flame. What else would you use?
Oh, no, any crystal. It doesn't matter. Like, it's the same thing. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. Okay, you can do the research, look up some crystals that'll help you be protected. I think selenite? Tiger's eye.
Tiger's eye? Okay.
And then a clear quartz, just for that clarity, right? But any crystal. And then onyx is really good because it absorbs negative things. So onyx. And there is one more that I'm forgetting. But anyway, but that's kind of like, it doesn't have, like I said, it doesn't have to be a specific crystal. It's just the whole thing is just creating the barrier. That's it's creating the barrier. It's honoring the 4 directions. You can, like I said, you can literally go outside, grab some rocks, and do this. It doesn't have to be. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be this big deal. I have to go to the store and I have to figure out which. It doesn't have to be that. You can if you want. Like, it's okay. But I'm gonna be real. Like, you don't have to do that. You can literally just go outside, get some rocks. But again, the most important part is intention, right? Because intention and intention, these are 2 things that aren't new to the human being. Cavemen have been doing this, right? They're hungry. They intend to get some food. They go out to get food. They use their attention to hunt and find food to eat, so they're not hungry anymore.
Right.
It's in our human design. People like really complicate things, and it's okay. Like, I'm not hating. Like, it's cool. But it's really simple. It's really simple. It doesn't have to be a big thing.
Now, in the circle of protection, do we have to draw a circle, or just leave the 4 rocks and honoring the 4 poles, and we're good?
Yeah, that's it. So honor the 4 directions.
That's cool.
That's it.
Easy.
You can sage. You don't have to sage. Like I said, I'm gonna be real. Like, I'm gonna be real. Maybe for some stronger ceremony, if you're doing some kind of healing work with other people, maybe you want to add a little bit more if you want. But if it's just you and you just want protection for yourself, that's gonna do the trick. That's
powerful. Now, time is flying. I'm like, this time is going when we start these conversations. Now, one of the major things that our community suffers from is trauma. And we have trauma from all directions. And we like to self-medicate. And we often don't like to deal with the trauma. In fact, I've had girlfriends who read my first book, and they were like, I had to put it down because it was triggering some things that I went through, and I just didn't know how to deal with it. And I put it down. And I'm like, that's the reason you're supposed to read it. Read it and sit in it and marinate in it. That's the only way you get through those feelings. How do you deal with the trauma that we have embodied over centuries that are in turn in our DNA with this work?
Yeah, so obviously the first thing is your passion. I'm telling, like, and again, I know for some of y'all, you're like, wait, what? I don't have to go to therapy. Like, I don't have to do all of this work. You can if you want, right? And I'm going to talk about that too, because people, they don't set the right intentions when they do that, and then they get caught in a loop. We're gonna talk about that in a second. But following your passion, I'm telling you right now, once you have your passion, once you're in alignment, it gets released on its own. So that's the first and the easiest, and I think the most powerful way. And again, this isn't just from me. This is from me talking to experts of every spectrum, like quantum healers, astrologers, therapists. Like it's I'm hearing the same thing. So I'm not just telling you from my opinion. I'm telling you from many people.
Right.
Okay, so then, so the other thing is, yes, you can do the emotional processing and the healing. And I want to be careful with this. So when you start to do that healing journey, I know a lot of us are on that healing journey, right? You need to set an intention for how long you want to be on that journey, and kind of what your expectations are around it. You need to, or else you're going to be caught up in therapy for what, 5, 6, 7 years. And it's, again, this is my opinion, but I don't think it's necessary if you set the intentions, because who wants to be healing the whole, for the whole life? I don't think anybody really wants to be in that state, right? Like, like it's great, but like nobody wants to constantly be, it's crazy. So set the intention. That's the biggest thing. Just set the intention. Wow. Set the intention that, in 1, 2, however long you need to take, 1 or 2 years, I am healed. That's the other thing. So stop saying I am healing. Say I am healed. Okay. You need to just put that, again, there's a lot of language that we use that keeps us in these loops. Okay. Yep. And again, for a lot of y'all who have been in the healing journey and are like, I'm tired of processing my emotions. I'm tired of, tearing and crying. You have to recognize, I think, 2 things. First of all, remember that for a lot of us who have been in trauma for years or decades where we didn't express our emotions, you have to either, how do I put this? You have to shift yourself. So you have to really start to be in a state of mind where you, how do I put this? You view your emotions. You no longer view your emotions as a crutch. Okay. So again, this is for those of y'all who have spent decades not expressing your feelings, not crying, right? So once you start to shift your mindset and allow for yourself to feel, that's when you're going to start being in that healed moment, right? Yeah. It's not necessarily about, balancing. I think some people think that, I didn't cry for 10 years and I have to cry for 10 years. It's not really about that. It's just about your mindset, and it's about your relationship with your emotions. So that's the other thing, is just having a healthier relationship with your emotions. And again, a healthy relationship doesn't look like I don't have any emotions. I don't experience emotions. It's more about, oh, I'm feeling sad. Okay. And just kind of like sitting in that, right? But a lot of people need help with that. So it's just like, if you need more support, obviously, you can, reach out to a therapist. But I also want to say that if you do go to therapy, you need to intend. You have to recognize that it's kind of like therapy really depends on you, right? If you go in and you don't trust your therapist, it's going to take you maybe a couple of years to get to the point where you trust them to really express, like, what's going on in your psyche, what emotions have been bottling up. But if you go into therapy, you're like, you know what, I want to release this. I want to release this emotion. I want to release this cycle that's been coming up over and over again. And you tell that to your therapist, and you really dive into the source of it. And you do recognize that it is painful, but you're still able to kind of, you honor the pain and you get through it. And then having another person there to get through it with you really helps. And then also with that, just learning the tools to help you then process your emotions by yourself. Okay. So that's the other thing. They don't, like, I think a lot of therapists, I don't know if it's changed now, to be honest, but therapists, they'll help you through some stuff, but they don't necessarily give you the tools. And so actually I made a course about this, which is called Emotional Elevation. And it's on my website. But I talk about all of the tools to help you, not all of them, obviously, but a good chunk of them, of how to like process your emotions, and like emotional anchors for when you get triggered. Like that's a big one, right? Because a lot of these emotions, they stem from our ego. It's not, and so we really, again, the programming has done a good job of confusing us to believe that our ego is our soul, and it's not. It's kind of they do work together, but I think a lot of our egos have kind of taken over. And so, we hear something, or somebody says something, we feel judged for it. It's our ego. And so you have to really learn how to, I would say, mother or father your ego. No, it's not. And that's one of the things that I learned. And it took me a couple of years to really get this into practice. But one of the things that I really heard a lot when I started my little healing journey was, don't take anything personally. And it took a couple of years for me to practice. Like, I'm gonna be real. Like, at first, I heard it and I tried to apply it, but I wouldn't remember it. But now I always tell myself, if I feel attacked or judged or something, I always tell myself, like, this isn't about me. This is about them. Exactly. So I'm gonna let them deal with this. So I think that kind of answered it.
Yeah, it does. That's powerful in terms of just having those steps to deal with the trauma, because we have so much. The question is, what is the website, which we didn't put in on our banner? What's your website?
Give me a second. Okay. I'm going to send it to you in the chat. But that's it. And this is where you can also work with me if you would like to. But yeah, but it's called Emotional Elevation. It's really cheap. It's a really cheap course, but it's packed. And this is the other thing too. Like, it's not just a masterclass. Like, I think there's like 9 activities you can do. There's like different tools. Like, when I teach, I'm like, look, I want you to learn it and I want you to apply it. So I give you the tools to also apply what you learn. Because I think a lot of people in this field, they're missing that. The application is really important. Okay. You could read the book and never apply it. And
exactly. So the site is a Thinkific course. It is an online course, lajoiefortune.thinkific.com. It's scrolling on the bottom, so you can definitely reach out to that and learn, because we got to get our tools up, because there's so much information out here, so much that we can apply, but we're not doing the work. Like, we're just taking our time and moseying along. What is your idea around the urgency of this work?
I mean, I said it earlier, get with it or get lost. Like, I think that's
right.
That's it. We live in the cycle of a lot of movement. Movement, you think of earthquakes, right? People getting shook left and right every day. So the more you know how to manage your emotions, have a relationship with your emotions, every time it's shook, the better off you're going to be. Because we just live in a time where there's just going to be more and more earthquakes, and not just like on a physical level too, but when I say earthquakes, I mean like earthquakes in the media, right? You scroll through IG and you see something that's like shocking to you. That's what I mean by earthquake. It's like it's shaking you a little bit. So we really have to learn that, because the media does a really great job. Really, I'm in awe. I'm in awe, because sometimes like, this is not true. But anyway, my point is, the media, and this is an international thing too. This is something I've seen globally in different ways too. It's really interesting. Every country does the little media manipulation in completely different ways. Sometimes it's very upfront and obvious. And I think America is one of those countries where they're really sneaky about it. They're really good. They're really good at hiding the truth.
It's crazy. They've been sneaky in the past, but I think now that Pluto's in Aquarius and the tides are shifting, and they're noticing the tides are shifting, and they don't want to let go of that power, they're doing it up in your face. Like, all right, we just gonna be blatant with it. We just come pulling out everything we got, because we're just panicking at this point. So yeah.
Right. But it's like, how do I put this? You get me? America, we're not gonna get into America. America's a hot mess right now. If y'all like follow the stocks, okay, y'all, my eyes widen for a reason. Okay, just anyway. It's legit a hot mess, but it's interesting. It's another conversation for another episode, but it's very interesting how the stock market is supposed to crash, but all of a sudden, they're really empowering a lot of people of color to invest in the stock market, because they're trying to save this. And we've seen this before too. This happened back in, I want to say, the 70s in advertising. They didn't advertise to Black people in America, right? And then all of a sudden, they started advertising because they knew there was money to be made in there. So it's kind of happening again, but with the stock market. That's it. I'm not going to get into it. That's like another conversation for the episode. So you could kind of see how the test in the waters a little bit. And honestly, the politics,
I don't
I don't
even.
want to say ignore it, but for my mental health.
I do ignore it. I ignore it because it's a reality TV show, and if that's the reason why
Thank
they know
you.
that, that's the reason why they know that reality TV works, and that's why I don't understand why anybody gets emotionally invested in politics. Like, stop getting your
Yeah.
emotions tied to these characters. They are in a show.
Hmm.
Relax. Like, you are
Exactly.
in this world, you are not of this world. We are of the universe, we are of the cosmos. All these other structures will navigate and move around us. And the more that we separate it, is the more that we're not affected. But like you said, subtracting the ego from that and understanding where what we truly are an extension of. Now, before we
Mhm.
wrap up, because we're after time, but ayahuasca, how does that play into your work? So, do you recommend people doing anything of like the mushrooms or the ayahuasca healing journey, and then as a way to, as a gateway to open up their abilities, or no?
Oh, for their abilities. Oh, interesting. I say it's not necessary. That's
Okay.
how I'm gonna put it. I think. So plant medicine. I really want to encourage all of y'all whenever you're dealing with plants, okay? Whenever you're doing any plant, okay, whether you're ingesting it, you're smoking it, any plant, you want to honor it, okay? This is plant medicine. A lot of people make this mistake, especially with mushrooms. A lot of people who have bad trips, they're in front of their computers taking mushroom. Like, it's like, what are we doing? So you have to honor the plants, y'all. Let's just honor the plants. I guess mushroom was in a plant, but y'all know what I mean, okay?
Yeah.
You have to honor the plans, period. That's it. So I really just want to say that because a lot of people make that mistake so early on. In terms of unlocking your powers, I guess it really helps with ego death, right? So
Hmm.
once you have that ego death, and you experience it, it does allow you to tap back into source, and just really just bring awareness
Hmm.
to your blockages,
Hmm.
and to who you truly are. Now, is it going to give you powers afterwards? No. Okay, there's still a lot of work you kind of have to do. Um, and I say this because the people who I know of who do have supernatural abilities, they never took any plant medicine. Never. It's that's why I say it's not necessary. Some of y'all like might be really interested in that, and that's cool. If you feel a calling to it, do it.
Right.
Do it with safety. Do your research.
Mm.
Um, Make sure that the shaman who you're working with, especially if you're black, like make sure they're indigenous. Don't be going to no. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I'm just gonna say it like my friend told me. He did 6 ayahuasca ceremonies, and he happens to be German. But my point is, he did 6 ceremonies. He said the sixth one was the best one because the shaman had the same ancestry as him. So that's where that kind of comes into play.
Mm.
Um, I've never done ayahuasca. I just know a lot of people, a
Done it.
lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I said, the people who I know who do have supernatural abilities and plant levitation, all of that, they have never done plant medicine.
I love that. Now, for
Yeah.
those of you who are in the chat, shout out to our family. I want to give out a shout out to our folks. So, Melanated Brown, you are always with us. I love y'all so much for supporting. Stephen Williams, my girl Coco. For those of you who have my book, Lajoie just mentioned ego death, right? And I want y'all to jump into the chat and let me know what number is synonymous with an ego death. So when you see these come up in your cycle, you can say, I'm about to have an ego death, and embrace it as something that's moving you closer to your journey of self truth and understanding who you are. Remember, it's all in the numbers. So jump into the chat and let me know what number goes and resonates with the idea of ego death. So, Lajoie, what else do you have coming up on the horizon in terms of this work? I know that you're in Bali studying and increasing your toolkit, but when you come back to the States, what's going to be your next move if you decide to come back to the States? What do you
Yeah,
make?
no.
She's like, I'm not. I'm good.
Yeah, no. I don't even want to like. Yeah, I know. Right now, I'm traveling. That's what I'm
I
doing.
love it.
I like
She's like, I'm
really.
global.
Yeah, I'm excited to do something or to do a workshop or something. It's just like right now, I feel like, um, yeah, no, I'm really a believer in doing virtual stuff. So a lot of the courses that I'll do on the website, y'all have the website now. Um, Check out the website. Everything will be posted on there. You can work with me one-on-one on there. And then also my school is going to
Mm,
open in September. So,
nice.
but right now I'm working on my class, which will be in September on how to float. So that's going to be coming up. and just also working on your psychic abilities, how to grow them. That's already
In the
in the
work.
school right now. So,
That's powerful.
yeah.
So your school, talk about your school.
Oh yeah. So it's a supernatural school. It's called Infinite Beings University, and because I really do believe within us we have the infinite, right? So I really want to empower more people to tap into like within themselves, to tap into what they need instead of going out, right? Um, because within us we all have a master, we all have an ascension master within us, we all have a guru, we all have a therapist even too. Like really when you tapped in, like it's a wrap. Obviously if you're not tapped in yet, it's okay, go see a therapist. Like it's okay, you can still reach out. It's okay. I'm not saying not to, right? But when you're tapped in, you really tapped in, you have it all within you. You just have to trust and really tapping into that source energy, right? That source mindset, right?
Mhm.
We have three minds. So we have the conscious, subconscious, and then we have the source, right?
Mhm.
So if you tap into the source, you don't even have to go through
Think
the subconscious. Just you
exactly.
bypass it to go. So tapping into that is really important. So I teach that a lot in my school. Obviously, I'm talking about superpowers too, also in my school, how to get them, how to really use intention and attention to focus on them, to grow them even more and more. So that's a lot of what I'm doing. So I'm just really again focused on expanding the soul, expanding your being, right? But again, we need to do that emotional work. Okay, this this is so
Right.
important. This is so important. You got to do that work first. So.
Can't avoid it. I love that.
Mhm.
Infinite Beings University. So I've got some in the chat. We got a 6. Nope. 6 is the number of community and family. We got a 9 is completion. That's correct, Corpulux, but it is not that number. 9 is completion. 10 is the death card. Nope, 10 is not the death card in tarot. 13 is the death card in tarot. So when you are having an ego death, just so y'all know, y'all need to tap in. Yes, 7. What kind of 7 though, Keisha? What kind of 7? So yes, it is 7. And it's a great number because 7 wants you to get closer to the truth of who you are. Karmic debt. I speak about this a lot on Instagram, and I am on Instagram. 16/7. Whenever you have a 16/7 cycle, and that could be a personal month, a personal year, it could be your pinnacle cycles, which is 9 years. It could be your transit, which is a year. You are going through an ego death. It is when spirit is pushing you out of your castle, out of your comfort zone, for you to detach from all the things that you have said you identify with. That fancy car, that Benz, that house, the money, your mate, whatever it is that feeds you, that makes you think I'm validated because I have this tangible thing, universe is going to take it away in some form or fashion. Either take it away or take away everything and strip you down to absolutely nothing because it wants you to get closer to the truth of who you are. Who are you in the absence of those things? And I ask people that all the time. And I know this is
Mhm.
probably something that you do in your work too, Lajoie. In the absence of my ego, in the absence of my title, when I was asking you earlier, like, what's your title? Like, what do you mean my title? In the absence of all the things that we used to identify and align ourselves with, who are we? How do you allow people to get to that thing? Who am I in the absence of everything?
Mm. So I think this is where plant medicine can really come in handy, actually.
Mm,
So yeah, so that's what I've learned about plant medicine. If you don't want to experience, well, sometimes it's unavoidable, but if you don't want to experience something in the physical, like in this realm, you could take plant medicine and just experience it through your mental, through that trip or whatever. Um, so you could do that. I'm not saying you can, yeah, like I said, in some situations it's unavoidable. The physical, the
right.
part in reality is gonna happen, but you can actually use plant medicine for
Plants.
this. Um, but in terms of, I don't know, like I feel like I don't know, I have to say meditation. Like like I don't know, there's nothing new. Like honestly, like if you study the teachings of Buddha, like um this being like meditated for so long and they really like tapped into the source, so really just meditation. And then I guess with travel too, that's another thing I'm a big advocate of, obviously, like
Mm-hmm.
um traveling. So just going to someplace new allows you to do that,
Yeah.
right? And it doesn't have to be outside of the country, it doesn't have to be, like doesn't have to be this big thing. You can literally go to a different state, different city, and that's fine. But once you go into a new environment, that kind of helps you empower yourself to tap into that energy of source, tap into that beginner's mind, tap into
Yeah.
that different version of you that you would like to be. Traveling is a huge, it's a really easy way to do this, because when you travel, you kind of have no choice, right? It's a new place, it's a new environment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Yeah,
you have
gotta
no choice
sink or
but to do it.
swim, right? Yep.
Right, right. So for me, yeah, that would be the big three: meditation, travel, and then plant medicine helps with that too. Um, but I think with all of this is just being consistent. Yeah, consistent, and then intending too. If you truly want that, intending for it to happen. So
I'm glad I'm gonna wrap it up soon, but I don't know if you saw this on the screen, but when you were talking about setting the intentions of how long you want to be in the healing process, I don't know if you saw on your screen like a thumb came up, a thought bubble with.
mm,
Did you do that?
mm,
So my spirits, whenever somebody says something, and it happens when I do my readings in my living room, so I have ancestors and spirits around me all the time, and whenever they say or I say something or anybody says something that they agree with, they put the thumbs up on the screen. So all
mm,
who are watching, like, where that thumb come from? That's the spirit co-signing it. Yes, set the intention for how long you want to be in the healing process.
like
Don't make
this.
it be a long, drawn out situation, right?
Mm-hmm,
So yeah,
mm-hmm.
so that was
So
powerful. So
yeah.
that
Did
was powerful.
anybody have any questions about blockages, real quick before we?
No, I'm looking in
Oh,
the chat and nobody has questions. Like people are digesting because we've spoken about quite
yeah.
a bit, quite a bit.
Fine.
But it's something you also said too that I think can help people with the ego death that you spoke about that I love is the passion and
Yeah.
identifying your passion and being so engrossed in your passion that nothing else matters. And that's something that I had to learn too. My best friend, who's now probably here, who put the thumbs up, who's in the other realm, told me all the time, Jackie, no job is going to fulfill you, no relationship is going to fulfill you, no money or person is going to fulfill you. You have to find something that is completely for you outside of what you do for work that feeds your heart. And that's
Mhm.
your passion. So once you identify what that is, folks, stick with it. It doesn't have to be anything that you do for monetary gain, but like Lajoie said, it will heal you and get you out of that trauma cycle. So Lajoie, I'm going to put it back to you. Anything you want to say before we bring an end to this episode? Any lingering thoughts, last words?
I mean, I feel like I said a lot. I didn't say everything, but I said a lot. No, I mean, like really, like I said, I think the biggest thing that I really want people to understand is that healing, that the healing journey. Make it a year, make it 2 years, and tend to be done with it after 2 years. Don't get caught up in that cycle. I just see a lot of people get caught up in the healing cycle, telling me I've been healing for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and I'm just like, that's not this
Mm,
that's another blockage that's happening.
mm,
So intend, know that, if you do decide to um, be healed, there's going to be certain things that are going to pop up that are going to challenge you, that it's going to really going to empower you to kind of tap into your emotions.
right.
And so you have to recognize that, if you're somebody who really needs more support, like if you're one of those people, like you were saying, right, who reads Jackie's book and is like, oh, this is cutting too deep, I can't deal with this. If that's you, please, 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 please make sure to learn, those emotional processing tools. I found with a lot of people that those really help if they don't want to do therapy. But don't let fear overcome you. That's like the biggest thing. Do
Yeah.
not let fear overcome you. That's a situation where fear was overcoming her. So it's just like really, 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 tap into love. I know people are like, what about this love and light thing, but really it's the truth. Like tap into love. It's gonna
Yep.
heal your fear. Okay. It's gonna allow you to be healed. So yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Lajoie. I love having my guests on. This has been informative for folks checking out Lajoie. Make sure that you check out the podcast, Transformation to Expansion. Check out her YouTube channel, Lajoie Bradley. You can email her at lajoiefortunesmm@gmail.com. And you can also take her course at lajoiefortune.thinkific.com. gmail.com. All right. So we all have our abilities. Let's tap into them and let's get our superpowers on by the
Yeah,
time the
come on.
year is out. So, Lajoie, thank you so much for being a guest here. Very honored to
Thank
have you. And I'll be
No, of
talking to
course.
you soon. And have fun in Bali. That is Bali. That is dope. That is super dope. Talk to you soon.
Yep, I'll see you later. Okay. Peace,
All right.
y'all. Have a good
All right, y'all. So that was a great session. As always, we always bring you the live and direct, the people who come with the true information. We are not misleading. We make sure that everybody that comes on is speaking from the heart and giving us information that we can use in real time. And so definitely tap into Lajoie when you can. As we know, the show has sponsors, and so the show was sponsored tonight by Ebony, the energy spiritualist, or the energy stylist. Yes, so many titles, the energy stylist. And her course is coming up July 23rd, 9 weeks. The Power of Words. It's the crystal chakra and numerology, so tap in. Also, you can get my book on Audible, Knocking from the Inside. You can buy it from Audible, or you can buy it from me in hardcover. King Simon, tickets go on sale today for his special tribute to Dick Gregory. So tap into that. And then we have our intellectualpower.net. Get your vitamins organically. 10% off at intellectualpower.net. Celebrating Nicholas Books, who has been servicing our community for 50 years. And with the intellectual power, it is free of heavy metals, gluten, wheat, dairy, soy, yeast, sugar, artificial flavors, sweeteners, fillers, preservatives, added colors, and or animal byproducts such as gelatin, cholesterin, and collagen. So definitely tap into your intellectualpower.net. And I'm your girl, Jazz, Jackie. Contact me, jazzaphrodite.com, if you want a reading to find out your purpose and your passion as well. And Lloyd will be back with us on Wednesday. And for now, my folks, that's it. I will see you on the other side. Peace, y'all.